founders haven't realized how difficult it is to sell AI to a business. And one of the principal reasons why it's so difficult is because the customer doesn't know how to buy it. They don't know what questions to ask about handing over an essential business process to a machine.
Richard Blundell. Richard is an author. He's the author of the Go-To-Market Handbook for B2B SaaS leaders. He's also the founder of a company called Vencha, which helps to serve founders, CEOs, investors who are trying to build SaaS businesses.
Why is the software industry the only industry in the world that doesn't test its products, market test its products, before we go to market? If you worked in pharmaceuticals, you'd be out of a job, you'd be in prison. There is no silver bullet in terms of how you're going to get hundreds of customers to come running at you. But I'm about increasing the odds. And to increase those odds, talk about something that is a nail in their boot, not a stone in their boot.
Richard Blundell, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. Great pleasure to be here.
Our founder, Emmett, he has been absolutely obsessed with your book, and he literally said on our Slack channel, he was like, it has become my Bible. I know it is the Handbook, and so he's very excited that we're getting you on the podcast.
I can't tell you what a thrill it is to hear that. I mean, you know, when you do these, you have the idea of writing a book, and it's a very, I won't go into how difficult it is to be a writer sometimes, and writer's block, and there's days you just don't fancy it, and then there's days you read the book and you go, it's rubbish, and then there's other days you read it and go, wow, this is game changing. But you know, I can't tell you what a thrill it is to hear feedback like that, because you spend many long hours sitting there thinking about what you want to say and how you want to say it, primarily trying to help. I mean, that's why we wrote the book, the three of us. We've all been in the software industry since the mid 1990s, a hell of a long time, since since the internet came out or first emerged from the US. And we really wanted to write something to help other people not fall into the massive man traps that we'd fallen into along the way, the mistakes we'd made, and to say, no, don't go over there. That's where disaster lives. And actually bring it back to something, give them a process, a track they can run on. And that's what the book is. And when you hear feedback like that, and it is a go-to-market handbook for B2B SaaS leaders, it just makes my day. So if you could thank him for me, that would be great.
No, absolutely. He listens, so I'm sure he's listening right now. So
Brilliant.
One of the big themes for me that came out of the book and has been really prevalent in our discussions with the company with Pitstop has been this idea of timing, and how timing is just as important as the tactics that you're using. This idea of what works at a certain stage or a certain amount of revenue you're making, or it's the size of a company versus where it is the year before that or the kind of years after that. How have you gone about advising teams or leaders to sort of gauge the right tactics to use at the right time in a business?
Yeah, do you mean from a go-to-market sense, like sort
Absolutely.
of what stage you're at? Yeah, I mean, there are probably, we estimate, 3 million founders in waiting in the world right now. And what I mean by that is these are people who are working for big corporates, probably in the tech team, who've discovered some kind of agentic model, or they've had some kind of idea within AI, and they are noodling away in the evenings and they're noodling away at weekends to create a solution to a problem that they've seen. And we are living in 2026 amongst the biggest bow wave of AI, new AI solutions, agentic models, and products entering the market. Probably, I mean, this makes when we first started out, the dot-com boom look like a sort of walk in the park. It's an extraordinary generational industrial revolution happening in the world right now, as new technology, which is evolving incredibly quickly, month by month, day by day, new solutions are emerging that make others look old and tired. So in terms of stages, you've got people who are sat in their sort of bedrooms at weekends now thinking, right, I'm going to go to market. I'm very strong technically. We tend to find there's two kinds of founders in the software world. One is that they've worked in a business. They've spotted a problem in that business, a really visceral 3 a.m. stare at the ceiling problem in that business. And they are going to go out and create a product and then they're going to sell it back to the business that they work in. And if the business buys it, they're then going to think, wow, okay, if my business wants it, then surely other businesses that look like me want it, and they go and create a business and they raise money and away you go. They're what we call the good founders. They've done it the right way. The other founder is a founder who is creating a product because they think they know that the market wants it, and they create a product and then go searching for a problem to fix it. And they are founders who find it much, much harder because they don't have real life experience of how what they've built solves a problem in a business. So I will get to answer your question in a second. The point I'm trying to make is that the customer at the end of the day, who's got to part with money, reputational risk, to take on board your software, is getting inundated with a huge wave of messaging, product messaging coming out of AI and software that like the world's never seen. It used to be, we used to be cold calling and InMail and LinkedIn and all that sort of stuff. Now it's just a torrent, right? And that is causing real confusion in the marketplace and real catharsis and real doubt. And many companies are actually saying, do you know what? Right now we won't buy anything because we don't understand it. And we want to wait and see where this world goes. And when we know where this world is going, then we'll take the operational risk and where it's at. That's the majority of the market. There's a innovator part at the front end of the bell curve that will be happy to take a risk, will be happy to do a pilot, will be happy to dive into this sort of this AI world. Because they want to get strategic advantage over their competition, and identifying those customers is really, really important. So I would say, to answer your question, irrespective of whether you're sat in your bedroom at the moment and you're listening to this while noodling on your AI agentic model, or whether you have a product and you're a technical founder and you don't know how to build a go-to-market strategy, or if you've started and it's gone well and then it's kind of flatlined a little bit, or if you're in a business that's thinking, right, we're going to pivot now into a new market and into a new bunch of customers that we don't know very well, I would say that the answer in terms of timing is it doesn't matter. The answer is that you need to do three things. You need to be 100% clear about what a perfect customer for your solution looks like. You need to know the DNA of that customer, how big they are, turnover, industry, vertical, geography. And then you're into sort of psychographic things like what do they believe that we also believe in, right? Are they an organization that believes in change? Are they an organization that believes in investing in new products? And then behaviorally, are they an organization that historically has taken the risk and jumped into new software and new AI? Or are they later on in that curve? So it's like that. It's like that question that I never know. I must look it up. I'll look it up after this podcast. But was it Einstein or somebody like that when they said, if I was given a question, I'd spend 90% of my time thinking about the question and 10% of my time thinking about the answer. And I think what I would do is spend 90% of my time trying to create virtually a theater with 500 seats in it. And sat on those seats are 500 economic buyers. And we can talk about what an economic buyer is and what an economic buyer isn't in a minute. But economic buyers who are ambitious, who are dynamic, who are the sort of people who want to deliver change in their organization. So you just sit their bums on those seats, that work for organizations that are at the front end of an adoption bell curve, are ready to change, are ready to move, are not massive enterprises that will take 3 years to decide, are maybe mid-tier enterprise, smaller businesses, but they're able to make a decision. They're able to move quickly without going through months of procurement, who are comfortable with AI, who don't find that scary or ethically challenging. And then your job is to create a 5 or 6 slide PowerPoint presentation that plays to the 1, 2, 3 pains that economic buyer has and keeps them awake at night. And what you'll see is all 500 people lean forward in their seats and say, wow, you're talking about exactly the challenges and the problems that we have. We are capable to make a decision and move. And I, as a human being, have enough ambition to be able to drive this into my business. So whatever stage you're at, sorry, it's a very long answer, but whatever stage you're at, if you can create that virtual theater, and there's, we can tell you how, and we'll talk about that more in a minute, then the odds of you succeeding have stacked so incredibly in your favor compared to others that you have a very good chance of making it. What everybody else does, by the way, is run out into the marketplace and machine gun down, hose down the market, hoping to find someone that's going to say yes. And they exhaust themselves, burn through all their money, and you just can't do it in the modern world. So it's all about precision targeting is my opinion.
It's such an interesting point as well, what you said earlier about how people are just receiving this torrent of, and I get it myself on LinkedIn, but email as well, and everything is just, the one word you didn't mention that I have a lot of is fatigue.
Yeah.
Of, just a constant barrage of, I think this might work for you, I think this might work for you. With that in mind, what can companies do to stand out when they are looking, say they have found that ICP and they are starting to fill the virtual theater? And then when it comes to them going, right, now, how do I get in touch with them in the first place? How do I advertise to them? How do I outreach to them without kind of falling in with every other company and causing that fatigue and that instant kind of, no, I'm not interested? You maybe have answered it there, but I just want to zero in on that a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I haven't done a good enough job of answering it. And I'm absolutely stunned how much in-mail and email I get from people who've done absolutely no research on me and what I do as well, right? Now, I know this might be kind of, AI SDRs or something like that, spinning out, it's a volume model. A volume model will not work in 2026, period, right? It just won't. And if you think that, email cadences and in-mail and LinkedIn and whatever's going to work, it's not, because your target market isn't even opening their email anymore. It's being done by an executive assistant, or they've got an AI tool on there that's stripping out anything they don't know, or Outlook will happily strip out everything you don't know, or Gmail will strip out everything you don't know. So it's just not going to land. So it's a really, really good question. How on earth do you get the attention of these people? And the answer is, you have to talk about what's bothering them, right? Now, that then begs the next question. Well, I don't know what's bothering them. Well, and the answer is, ask them, right? Ask them. So in the book, in the Go-to-Market Handbook for B2B SaaS leaders, and indeed in our new book, which is called The Selling Software Algorithm, which is all about building that theater of 500 virtual people. In there, we talk about creating you can either go to your customers straight, like completely cold, and say, and you beg, borrow, steal, go to your brother-in-law's friends, mates, whatever, and sit them down and say, we think you've got this problem. Can you tell me whether you've got this problem? Blah, 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 blah. That's fine. Or what we recommend is that you as an organization build a single visualization of what you think is bothering your target customers and frustrating them and keeping them awake at night and making them think if they don't fix this, they might get fired. Or if they do fix this, they might get promoted or achieve their bonus or get headhunted to go into another role, which is the big role that they've always wanted to do. So the starting point is, presumably as a founder, you have a thesis. You believe you fix something that is broken in another company's organization, right? So if we were selling to customers, B2C, right, you'd have a picture of Tom Cruise's teeth before he had all the work done, and Tom Cruise's teeth after he's had the work done, with a big, 100,000 watt smile. And underneath he'd put Richard Blundell, orthodontists, and my phone number, right? And in that picture, I have painted 1,000 words that if your teeth look like this and you'd like them to look like that, give me a call, right? Or, a picture of a portly gentleman strolling down the street and a ripped guy coming out of a gym. You know what I mean? It's very easy. In business, it's a lot harder. In business, we fall into the trap of writing 1,000 words rather than having the picture that paints 1,000 words. So what we say is create a visual pain statement. And if you want to buy the book, it'll tell you how to do it. In fact, both books do. But, create a visual pain statement, or go on our website. There's loads of stuff on there for free. And in that visual pain statement, draw the process that you think is broken and all the pain and the time that's lost and the money and the heartache that goes with it, and sit down with these guys and don't sell them anything. You're not allowed to sell them anything. And just say, look, you are the head of HR, chief marketing officer, CCO, CEO, whatever, whoever your target economic buyer is of this organization. This is what I think is broken in your world. Am I right? Does it look like this? And of all these things that are broken, what's the one that pisses you off the most? What's the one that comes up every one-to-one you have with your team, every management team, every board meeting? Why are we so slow getting our goods to market? Why are we still working in Excel spreadsheets? Why are people leaving the business because the process is so inefficient? Find that one thing, right? And if you can, you're allowed 3, but mainly find the one thing. Mm-hmm. And that means that when you go to market and you're sitting in your theatre with your 500 economic buyers that you've identified because you know what a perfect customer looks like because you've established a DNA of a perfect customer, and that's a subject for later on. You've got the perfect target market in your room. If your presentation is all about a evidence-based, verified thing in their business, narrow, not all things to all people, not a Swiss Army knife, the magnifying glass and the tweezers and the saw and the thing that gets stones out of horses' hooves. That's what we build in software now. The knife, right? The thing that everybody uses. And you're talking about the very thing that's keeping them awake at night and came up in the last management team meeting. And you show them an incredibly elegant, easy to integrate solution that brings fast value within weeks and within months. My opinion is that you're far more likely for that person to read your ebook or your user guide or watch your video. I mean, you've got about 7 seconds now to come up with a sentence due to social media. But why do we stop when we're scrolling through social media? Because someone has said something that makes you go, that's me. I've got that problem. That's my problem, right? So there is no silver bullet in terms of how you're going to get hundreds of customers come running at you. And if anyone could create that, by the way, they'd be a billionaire. But I'm about increasing the odds. I'm about going to the casino and beating the casino. And that's what it is, right? And to increase those odds, talk about something that is a nail in their boot, not a stone in their boot. And if you don't know what the nail is, go and ask them. And they'll help you. I can't believe how, we've tested hundreds of theses of software businesses at Vencha over the last 6-7 years. And people are really, really happy to help your research. Really happy. So just ask them and say, I think this is broken. I think it's keeping you awake at night. And I think if you fixed it, you'd be a flipping hero. Am I right? And if I'm not, tell me what I'm not. And 9 times or 8 times out of 10, they'll say, yes, you're right. Once they'll say, no, you've got this wrong, in which case you're back to the drawing board. And thank God you found that out before you spent £1 million on marketing. And very, very often they say, I see what you're doing, but the real pain is not on your pain statement. It's up here. And you'll go, well, what's that? And I'll go, our real pain is we can't get the data in from da-da-da. Oh, okay. And then you adapt your value proposition so that you solve that problem first and away you go. So talk to them about something that they care about, that's pissing them off. Don't talk to them about something that you think's pissing them off. Do you see the difference?
100%. I think it comes back to just basic human psychology of we all love talking about ourselves and what we're doing. And by letting people do that, as you said, and also, just before we hit record, you showed me the manuscript for your book, and you were saying it's so easy to almost be too close to it, and I'm one day you're like, oh, this is shit, and then another day you read it and it's amazing. And I think the same can also be said for this. When you are that founder in the living room, when you're building this product and you're looking at it, it's so easy to get so close to it, and you have a day where you look at it and you go, it's rubbish, I need to do this and this, or you look at it and you go, this is literally perfect. But actually, often you're so close to it that you cannot have a subjective view of it. You have to talk to 100%. Other people about it, and you have to get that feedback and things. So does that kind of resonate with, another big thing that you've mentioned in the book is how important it is to kind of make sure those foundations are in place and things like that before you start implementing sales teams and things like that? Because so often that sales team becomes the kind of scapegoat, doesn't it? Of like, right, well, the sales team aren't performing, it's the sales team, rather than actually, I guess, maybe go into that a bit more. And is it part of building that foundation, and that virtual theater, I guess, is part of that?
Yeah. what you just said, I could not agree with more. In the sense that, sorry, you have to edit this bit out. Sorry,
No, not at
completely
all.
lost my train of thought. You were talking about before. Yes, sorry. Start again. Sorry. Yes, you're completely 100% correct. They have this expression in English about cobblers' children's shoes, and the fact that people who make shoes don't ever give good shoes to their kids. 75% of solicitors died last year without writing a will.
No way.
This is an impossible thing to do on yourself. You cannot operate on yourself. I could not agree with that more. You have to get objective here. You have to, you're too close to it. You're too emotionally bound up in what you've created to have someone give you an opinion. You need to find someone from outside your business. I mean, it's what we do for a living, but this isn't an advert. If it's not us, then you need to get your chairman or someone in business to come in and facilitate these conversations, to be really hard on you. So to answer that question, I couldn't agree with you more. And secondly, again, violently in agreement, this is what happens with most founders or founding businesses. They come up with an idea. They find 3 or 4 early bits of traction, customers saying yes. They go out and they raise money, and they blow that first £1 million on hiring an expensive sales director, maybe an expensive sales team, and expensive marketing, without ever having gone to market and tested whether the market actually wants the solution that they've created, right? So maybe you've got lucky in the first 2 or 3 times. Why is the software industry the only industry in the world that doesn't test its products, market test its products, before we go to market? If you worked in pharmaceuticals, you'd be out of a job. You'd be in prison. You'd never consider taking a perfume to market, or a pair of football boots or trainers. Everybody market tests apart from us, because we think we know more than our market. And that's crazy, right? So you go through your first £1 million and then you sack your sales team because your sales team are rubbish. And maybe they are, but I don't think they are. I think you're sending a woodsman out into the forest with a blunt axe and wondering why he doesn't come back, cutting down any trees. And the reason is because the value proposition isn't sharp enough. It's not resonating. Even if you found something that is important to your economic buyer and in which they're prepared to invest and take the risk to buy an early stage software business. And by the way, that's one heck of a risk. And they're all worried that you're all going to get, that everyone's going to get, mopped up by, bigger incumbents. They're not working with somebody that they don't know. But if they're going to make that risk, if they're going to take that step, unless the value proposition is absolutely razor sharp and plays directly to the single biggest problem that customer has, it doesn't matter how good the sales team are, how good your marketing cadences are, you'll never break through, and you'll never make that business grow. And you'll end up with all your messages bouncing off people. They won't understand. They don't have time. I've got one real passion in life, one real bugbear in life, is I work with software companies all day, every day. And the thing that makes and I'm a pretty calm, easygoing guy, but the thing that makes my blood boil more than anything else is how unbelievably unintelligible most software and AI websites are. Right. And I'm pretty clever, and I'm in the space, right? I didn't get off the last train, right? I know this market well, and yet I have to spend 20 minutes, because I'm trying to help a business understand what the heck it is that business even does. And then if I can understand it, maybe it's a better website than that. It tells me what they do and how they do it, right? So we do this and it does that. Or they'll fill it full of acronyms that I've got no idea what those acronyms mean, unless you're an industry insider, right? And your economic buyer does not have the time or the brain cells to burn trying to understand your value proposition. And if your value proposition is only based on business outcomes, KPIs, what we kind of believe in, maybe, ROI, it's been around since God was a boy. Does anyone believe it anymore? I don't think so. You have to say something that is playing directly to the thing that they're going to get fired for if they don't fix in their organization. Yeah. Or the thing that if they fix it, they're going to be held up by the CEO in front of the rest of the management team saying, why can't you all be more like that? So sacking the sales team and blaming the sales team sometimes is the right thing to do. And I've worked with, really idle sales teams. So, and I've had really idle people in my sales team. And don't start me on what it was like back when we were selling compared to what it is now, because I'll sound like a right old git. But sometimes it is the sales team. But 9 times out of 10, it's that you're sending them out into market with a value proposition that doesn't make sense and doesn't resonate with anybody. And therefore, they're coming back with no sales.
I feel very validated. Something we say at Pit Stop all the time is that if we can't describe it in one sentence, then it's not right. We can't, yeah.
That's absolutely right. I mean, we've all got mobile phones, right? We're all on X and we're all on Insta and we're all on TikTok. I mean, I think they said the other day, I read a paper that said, you've got 7 seconds now to get someone's attention. And a goldfish has a memory span of 8 seconds, right? So that kind of puts into context you've got about 7 words or 6 words, and if you're doing a video, like, people have got really good at this, right? Saying something at the start of the video that makes you stop and look and listen. But if you've got an organization where you've got a head of people or a head of talent acquisition, and you're looking down at your stats and you're realizing it's taking you 51 days on average to replace somebody when they leave. And that is costing the business on average £500,000 per person that leaves. And someone flashed up a message saying, would you like to shorten the amount of time that it takes to hire somebody? And in doing so, save yourself hundreds of thousands of pounds? I think I might then click the button that says, yes, please tell me more.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I was scrolling through and I saw, wow, we've got an AI integration solution that does into, look how clever we are. They don't care how clever you are. They woke up this morning. They had slightly less sleep than they'd like to have. They went downstairs. They got yelled at by their kids. They got in the car. Remember, they haven't booked the holiday yet. They're driving to work, driving to the train station thinking, wow, I hope one day I can pay my mortgage off and I don't have to sit in the rain. They get on a train that's too crowded. They don't get a seat. They get to work, and that's before their own team comes swarming at them over the hill, telling them how unhappy and how miserable they are with the way that the current process works. And at 11 o'clock, they've got a meeting with you, right? They want you to come in and tell them that you are going to change their life at work for the better, that you empathize with their problem, that you understand their pain, you're talking their language, you're not using acronyms that can confuse them, and that you found a way to take 7/10 of all that rubbish that they got in when they walked in the front door away from them. What we do instead is we go into those 11 o'clock meetings and we sit there and we present our software. And look how clever we are. And isn't it amazing? Look at the colors and look at the interface and look how amazing. They don't care how your product works. They will never care how your product works. They will never use your product. They won't. They might use a dashboard. They might use some output. They couldn't care less what you've created and how clever you are. All they want to hear is, am I in this meeting for you to tell me something that's going to make me feel better, make my team feel better, get me promoted, get my bonus, which, by the way, the bonus is the only thing that's going to pay for the school fees and the extension and the holiday and the care for the kids, because the regular monthly money's gone, right? So are you going to give me something that's going to make it easier for me to get my bonus at Christmas or not? Anything else, I'm not interested. Now, they might be polite enough to sit in there for an hour. Most of them don't these days. But if you haven't got that message in the first 3 minutes of what you're talking about, pick up your wooden spoon on the way out, because they don't care. They haven't got time to care. They're not bad people. They are time poor. They're overworked. They're stressed. So if you're a founder, if you're a business, think about what is that thing that you can say to them that's going to make them feel better. And I suggest, if you haven't deeply empathized with the life and times of your economic buyer and what it's like to do that job, you're missing a massive trick.
So where does that leadership start then? You just mentioned there, does that start with the founder? Does it start with, because it's difficult. GTM covers so many bases across a business, doesn't it? So, where does that leadership start, and that idea of unlearning let's talk about ourselves and what we've created, and trying to learn a bit more. Let's try and relate with that. Who is that person within the organization, or does it vary depending on, is that too broad a question, essentially?
No. I mean, it should start with the founder,
Right.
but not all founders want to listen. So, look, if you've got to if you're going to change, you've got to want to change, right? If you're tired with the up at dawn, pride swallowing siege that it is being a software founder or working in AI and software, and you say, do you know what? Why don't we just at least consider doing this in a different way? Why don't we at least consider that it should be easier than this? Why is it that a business that's very similar to us has just raised 50 million quid in the United States and has been valued at, £1 billion, and yet we do the same thing and our product's better? Until you get that kind of anger in yourself to say, I want to change and I have to change, it's very difficult to do. I mean, you hope it's the captain of the ship. You hope it's the guy on a horse on a hill that says, we're going the wrong way. This is exhausting, But if it's not, then it's somebody else in the business who is, has the wit and the passion and the energy to say, there has to be a better way of doing this. There has to be another way. This is exhausting. We're wasting money. Everyone's miserable. We're missing sales targets. Our runway's shortening. I want to be part of a winning team. I support West Ham. I can't tell you how painful it is supporting West Ham in 2025, 2026. It's agony, right? Utter agony. And put that into a business, to a business field, right? I'm just sick of being on the losing team. I want to be on the winning team. So where it starts is a completely blank whiteboard, and saying everything we've learned, everywhere we've gone is in the rearview mirror, right? Even God can't change the past, right? So we now need to look forward. We now need to look front window. It's the start of a year. It's 2026. Everyone chuck their resentment and their arguments and everything we've got out the back door. We are going to start afresh. And we're going to write on a whiteboard, that ages me, put on a whiteboard, what sort of customers are perfect for our solution. Not ideal, middle pixel of the middle dot of the bullseye on a dartboard for what we do. How big are they? What vertical are they in? Let's go back and look at 5 amazing clients that we had that we'd love to clone. What is it about those 5? What attributes? What's in that DNA? Well, they had a change maker, they had a rainmaker. Okay, well, that needs to go into our DNA in the organization. They were all heavily in security. They all, for their organization, security was a non-negotiable. They're highly regulated. They have around 300 to 500 people. They're turning over 10 to 100 million pounds. They're based geographically within 100 miles of our head office. They have an appetite for change. They have an appetite for explanation. They're at the front end of the bell curve. They have invested in AI before successfully. They're on the move. They're dynamic. They want to compete. They're new. They're in the market. Whatever those diagnostics are, write up the DNA of a perfect customer, and right underneath, what must be true about that organization for our software or our AI to be perfect? What must be true? So it might be, for example, well, they have to be regulated because security for them is non-negotiable, and we've got a security product. Or, I don't know what it is. They have to have this sort of software, or they have to have this sort of problem. And you start again and you say, right, that is what a perfect customer looks like. Run it through the million different sorts of software that are out there. ChatGPT will give you 500 companies that have those diagnostics and those attributes. And you now know, or you should now know, that if you can get your really sharp, refined message, which you've now created because you've done your pain statements and you've spoken to the economic buyer, and you present that message knowing that they're in that pain, just to those 500 organizations, maybe we get it down to 100, and maybe we get obsessive about those 100 and we create a Facebook of them, and we find out what they're writing. We follow them on Substack. We follow them on LinkedIn, and we literally have to figure out a way to trip them over in a corridor or meet them in a bar or however we're going to meet them and tell them our message. The odds are very, very high that they'll go, wow, that's weird because we've got that problem. Do you see what I mean? So that's a very long answer, again, to a question of, how do we start again? 3 things. who is the perfect economic buyer for our solution? In what company, what sort of company is that person working? And I mean by that, looking at the 4 quadrants of customer DNA. And finally, what are the 1, 2, and 3 pains that are keeping them up at night? And rather than machine gun the market, we're going to sniper fire messaging into that economic buyer, saying that we know your pain. We know your pain because we fixed it for your competitors. We know your pain because we fixed it for a company like yours up the road. We know this is keeping you awake at night. Could you give us 45 minutes so I can hear more about your challenges and your pain, and see on a very narrow basis, no Swiss Army knives, one knife, whether we can fix it? That's how you stack the odds in your favor.
And I guess that links back to what you've mentioned before about this virtual theater and getting those people in it. And almost what you've described there, it's like, it's not just about getting them into the theater, it's about going out and meeting them where they are and convincing them to come to the theater, essentially.
Yes, but they'll come if you are projecting a message on your website and in your ebooks, and you're posting on LinkedIn every day. And if you're not posting on LinkedIn every day, what the hell are you doing? I mean, seriously, what are you doing? There is no other vehicle out there. And yet people go, oh, well, I do it once a month and every now. That is your stage. That you have to own that. If you're going to break this market down, you've got to be a rainmaker. You've got to write something. You've got to say something that makes them sit up and go, wow, Sandy's talking a lot of sense. He's talking about exactly the problems we've got in our business. I want to find out more, right? So they'll come to your theatre if your message is innovative and it's talking truth to them and it's helping them. The story I always tell is, imagine, Sandy, you're opening a hotel this weekend, right? And you're it's really important, family-run thing. You're opening up a hotel, 12 bedrooms, and today's Tuesday, and you're opening up on Friday night. And just the final check, you've got the fire guys round to make sure you're all signed off or ready to go. And the guy walks into reception and he says, "I'm really sorry, you can't open on Friday. Your fire extinguishers are all out of date. You're not opening. You're not insured to open," right? Mm-hmm. You're now thinking, wow, God. So I bet you don't sleep well that night, right? And I bet you're going to think, bloody hell, I can't start earning money, right? So what do? You go on the internet and you start searching around and you find a website that says same day fire extinguisher delivery for pubs, hotels, and restaurants anywhere in the UK, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to go, that's what I'm looking for. Click. In you go, give them a call, hunting them down, click, 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 click. Next day, your fire extinguishers turn up and you're there, right? When you go on that website, does it tell you what chemicals are in those fire extinguishers, or how to use them, or how heavy they are, or their dimensions? Or no one cares. I just need the fire extinguishers in my building. and yet we go to market telling about the polyurethane covering pin. That might be relevant to the fire department and the people who are going to use it, but right now I need to open my business, and you're selling same day fire extinguishers specifically for my sector. So our website should say, we work specifically with your sector, specific for people like you, and we can deliver it quickly and we can deliver it easily. So yeah, I mean, you've got to change your mindset from not standing in a crowd and going, oh, it's really hard out there. It's bloody hard. It's never been harder. It's never been harder to sell software than it is today. And yet the hours that we put in to go to market, and the hours that we, and the sheer level of thought we put into thinking about our go to market is actually way less than it was, 30 years ago when I started, when we literally had a yellow pages and a phone. Right. Mm-hmm. And we had to make 60 cold calls a day to make 2 appointments, and they had to come and see us in our office. We couldn't even go and see them. Right now, that's, it got banned, thank goodness, and it's illegal now. But you know what? That boot camp taught us how bloody hard it is to knock these doors down. If you think it's easy, go and do something else. This is unbelievably difficult. So yeah, you have to stand out from the crowd, but to stack the odds in your favor, stop hosing down the market with operational messages about how you can reduce something by 1% or 5% or and start talking about the pains that are keeping your economic buyers awake at night, and only obsess about the 500, just those 500, because you need to close 10% of them, close 10% of them and you're Series A, Series B. right? Obsess about those 500, know everything about them, talk their language, write to them, ebook them, message them, whatever you need to do to get their attention. And then when you finally do get their attention, go in with a message that makes the guy that's listening go, wow, this guy's on it. He knows exactly what my problem is. I'm going to work with him. So yeah, it's hard work, but boy, the rewards are there if you get it right.
What's changed then since you mentioned you've got this other new book coming up, and you mentioned that virtual theatre is quite a large part of that. How has that and you've mentioned how quickly the market has changed. I mean, we're in it as well, so I'm noticing it. Day by day. That Molt thing that came out the other day of all these AI agents creating their own language and stuff. It's everything's happening so quickly. How's it been? Going from writing the previous book to now writing this one, and things have changed so quickly. Was there something that felt unfinished in the previous book, or is this?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Sandy. The first time I thought about that. So we wrote the last book in September 2023, and the response to it has just been ridiculous. I mean, we wrote the book because we went to see two friends who work in marketing, and we were saying, we're not sure what it is that we do. We know what we do, but we can't articulate it, right? We were those people trying to operate on ourselves. We were, we just couldn't do it. And they said, well, we know what you do. You do this, this, and this, and why don't you write it down? And that's what it was. The Go-to-Market Handbook was the 10 workbooks that we take our clients through, when we work with them directly. And we work with them directly, every day. What has changed? I think back then, large language models were, something that only very clever people talked about, and AI was sort of sat on the periphery. And now it's all over us like a cheap suit. It's everywhere. What's changed? Two things. I don't think the media are giving AI a fair rub of the green. And I think if you watch, This Morning or listen to podcasts like the news agents or whatever, they're all like, oh, AI is going to take our jobs away and it's going to, and that makes it really much harder to convince people. I think what's changed is that founders haven't realized, if you are selling AI, how difficult it is to sell AI to a business. It's a lot harder than we thought initially. And one of the principal reasons why it's so difficult is because the customer doesn't know how to buy it. They don't know what questions to ask. They don't know what ethics committees they should take you through. They don't know what feedback loops they should create. They are concerned about handing over an essential business process to a machine. And it's a lot harder to sell software today. A lot of organizations, we're also living in a global economic slowdown, which has been consistent since 2023, right? In fact, when we wrote our book, it was probably the sort of top end of the last decent uprise. And since then, we've been in the doldrums. We've had, Trump, we've had the US, we've had the problems that the British government are having. The market, it hasn't really moved. Having said that, there are organizations that have grown spectacularly and have done this brilliantly, right? And what have they done? They've got niche. They've got narrow. Before trying to be all things to all people, they've dominated a space. So all the customers in that space know who they are and what they're doing. And then they've earned the right to expand their horizons, as time has gone by. So what has changed? Enormous numbers of AI solutions. Probably less investment than there's been in the past. It's quite hard to raise money, although there is a massive ton of money out there, and how to raise money is a conversation we'll do on a different podcast. But there is a ton of money out there. But principally, I think we've underestimated how long the procurement cycles or the gestation period is for selling our products and selling our software. It's months. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months. Back in the day, you could sort of meet someone on a Monday and close them on a Friday. No, that doesn't happen anymore. We've got to get better. We've got to get cleverer. We've got to get sharper. And this is an age of people not wanting to do the hard yards, looking for the shortcut, looking for the fix. There isn't a fix. It's bloody hard work. But when you break through, what do you need? 25 to 30 delighted customers that love what you're doing, and they'll refer you to one other company. By the way, referrals. Does anyone ever ask for referrals anymore from customers? Hi, do you love what we've done? Yeah, it's amazing. Has it saved you tons of time? It's unbelievable. It's really great. Is there anyone else in your space that you know that might have the same problem? They all know each other. They all work together. They've all got WhatsApp groups. Just ask them. They'll help you.
It's something you mentioned about the yellow pages and the cold calls and stuff like that. And I've been thinking about this a lot. And I had a conversation with a woman called Hannah last week. She's a GTM specialist, founder of a company, kind of consults for all these sort of SaaS businesses. And the kind of theme of our conversation was that we've really just lost a huge amount of the human touch. And through all of the insight you've given me here, that's also something that I'm finding is another bit of a theme, is that, and I wonder whether that is affecting it. Like you said there, we've got to get cleverer, we've got to get smarter and things. And it's like, I agree. I think we do have to get smarter, but there are so many shortcuts now, and there are so many ways for us to remove that kind of level of humanity. I realize I'm getting a bit spiritual here, Rich, but hear me out.
No.
It's so easy to remove the humanity from interactions now, whether it is, should we just quickly hop on a call and you never really interact with them and you get on with it straight away, or a LinkedIn in-mail, or using ChatGPT even using ChatGPT to structure the message and then sending that out to them. There's been no thought. There's been no. I wonder what this human does. I wonder what he likes to have for breakfast. I wonder what she does on her weekends and stuff like that. And it's what Hannah said last weekend of, she was talking very much about the actual sales process and going on the calls and actually using those first couple of minutes to actually get to know someone first. And she was like, it's insane. It's amazing how much of a difference that makes in building these relationships with your economic buyer and things like that. And just quickly before we finish, I'd love to get your thoughts on that kind of side of things as well.
Well, last time I looked, I can tell you what's not changed since 100 years ago or 500 years ago or 2 millennia ago is people buy from people, right? People buy from people. And if you're going in and you're talking to them about a business challenge that is causing them real heartache, forget the time, forget the money that it's saving, heartache. Every one-to-one I have, my team are complaining at, security's not good enough, handover's not good enough, Excel's getting lost, whatever it might be. And you go in there and say, I know what it's like doing your job, because I spent 2 days not in your room, but in other people's rooms, in your competitors, in other buildings like yours. And I know the problem that you've got with da-da-da-da-da, and you use their language. I don't know how challenging da-da-da-da-da is, and I've fixed it. And I've taken it all away. And in 6 weeks' time from now, I could take you from where you are now, very small baby steps, just so you get confidence, get it in, get it fixed, get that done. And when you're happy with it, I want you to come back to me and ask me the immortal question, which is, I love what you've done with X. What else do you do? And then I'm going to tell you about Y, and then I'm going to tell you about Z. What we try and do is package up X, Y, and Z together, shove it all down a marketing funnel, and hope the person on the other end's got any idea what the hell you're talking about. And they don't care, and they haven't got time. And I could not agree with anything you said more than bring back the humanity. By the way, you can almost find out what they've got for breakfast, what they have for breakfast. You can certainly find out what they're writing about. You can certainly find out what they're reading, what they're talking about, what events they're going to, what they're speaking about, what their organization is speaking about. I was listening to a Gong call because I was helping a business out the other day, and they said, "Can you review this call for me?" And there were two of them chatting, on my company's end, waiting for the economic buyer to come on the phone call. And one of them said to the other one, "Have you looked this person up on LinkedIn? Do you remember where they've worked before?" And he went, "Oh, no, I'll just do it now while I'm waiting." And my head exploded. It was like, what do you mean you're looking them up, as they come into the foyer or the waiting room or whatever? You need to know this person intimately. Where have they worked? What sort of organizations? What sort of size of organizations? What challenges did they have when they were there? Do you have the guts, if you earned the right, to say to the person on the phone, could you give me some idea about what your department's operational objectives are for this year? Can you tell me what it is you would be rewarded for as a team and as an individual? What is it would earn you your bonus? Would you share that with me? And if one of the things that they're going to get rewarded for their bonus is the very thing that you can solve for them, you stop being a salesperson, you start becoming an ally. And indeed, in my experience of selling software, I'm sure yours as well, they become friends. The ones that you've worked with a lot, become friends. And if you've done a brilliant job, they leave and they go to another place. And guess what? They take you with you, go into the next place. And yet we now invented AI SDRs, auto dialing. While I've been on this podcast, someone's rung me from a number I've never heard of in London 3 times. They don't know who I am. They don't know what my background is. It's just hit hard and hope. And I can tell you, hit hard and hope in 2026 is a guaranteed way of failing. The only way to win is to analyze, think, and then act, not act. Analyze what a perfect customer looks like. Think about what it is that's keeping them awake at night, and then go and talk to them in an empathetic and humble way and say, I know your pain. Let me fix it for you. And one final story to finish on. If you went to go and see your GP tomorrow and you sat down in front of your GP and the GP looked at you and said, oh, hi, Sandy, great to see you. I'm glad you're here. Have you seen, I've just got a new delivery of pills. We've got some blue ones, some green ones, some red ones, got some potions and some ointments. Which one would you like? Got tons of them. Look, which one works for you? I suspect that you'd sit there going, what do you mean? I don't know. How the hell can you give me, you don't know what's wrong with me. And that's the best analogy I can give for you walking into a first meeting and demonstrating your product. How the hell can you demonstrate your product when you don't know what's broken therein? Well, what a doctor does is they ask you, what's up? What's hurting? How does that pain manifest itself? You're not sleeping. What does that mean? I'm shouting at the kids. I'm shouting at my wife. I'm da-da-da-da-da, I'm da-da. Okay, and then what effect does that have? Okay, that's causing you to be late for work and not concentrating, da-da-da-da. I'm going to send you for some blood tests. I'm going to measure your blood pressure. I'm going to do da-da-da-da-da. And then you go back for the second meeting. He says, I think I know what's wrong with you. You've got X, Y, and Z. And you go, oh, thank you. Doctors are the greatest salesman on earth, by the way, because everyone buys what they diagnose. 100% close rate, right? How do they do that? They build trust and they build confidence by doing lots of diagnostics in that first meeting that gives you, the consumer, the ability to have confidence. So what can we do to test and to ask and to empathize and to understand pain and to understand how pain manifests itself? I think if you're that human, humanity is absolutely right, they're going to buy from you because they like you and they want you to do well. And you're the first person that walked in their room and said, how are you? And when they say fine, say, no, I know you're going to say that. Take 10 seconds. Let me ask you again. How are you? And they'll tell you. And then you can dive into, I think your world's like this. Am I right? This is what the rest of the market's told us, that this is a problem. Have you got that problem? Yeah, we have. Do you want me to help you fix it? Slowly, gently, quietly? Yeah, I do. Brilliant. Let's go.
Rich, this has been an absolute masterclass.
I've loved it. It's been great.
Yeah, I've so much to take away, like personally for like my own, journey in marketing and what we're doing at Pitstop, but also I think just so many insights for so many people in this space. And like you said, it's kind of this weird juxtaposition of it's never been easier to start something, but it's also never been harder to sell it. And I think it's there's some amazing insights in there. Where can people go if they want to find out more about what you get up to and new book coming up? And tell us.
Sure. I mean, Vencha.team, Vencha is Vencha .team is our website. The book is called The Go-to-Market Handbook for B2B SaaS Leaders, which is never far away from my desk. And it's sold thousands of copies. We've actually written 2 books, but we'll talk about the other another day. The new book will be out on Amazon in probably March, April time. It's the best thing I've ever written. We've ever written. Amazing. It's 27 years of hard-earned experience. It's everything I've just talked about in a book. So, and it's not a long read. It's probably a 3-hour read, and that's going to be called The Selling Software Algorithm. So, keep in touch. Thank you for having me on. I hope it's been valuable. And if we always say, if we can give forward to an industry that's treated us so well, and one founder out there can say, do you know what? I'm sick and tired of walking the path that I'm walking, and I want to be better, and I want to start winning. I want to be in a winning team. I want to start supporting Arsenal, not West Ham. Then it's been worth doing. And good luck to you.
Oh, I love it. Rich, thanks for coming on. Thanks to all of you for listening, and we will see you all for the next one.
Take care.